And I'm watching myself, and I'm like, and I'm
yeah.
trying to talk, and you could tell I was just like, it's so hard trying to talk.
But it was great.
And I was like, I have no recollection of that whatsoever. I really wasn't afraid. I think I was more excited, but then as the actual surgery day approached, I think you kind of go through a wave of you're really excited. Then when the day actually gets there, you're a little bit apprehensive. But I really wasn't nervous about pain or anything like that. I think it was more concerns about the recovery process and just having to be down that long, because I'm not really one to handle that very well. None of my family. I'm the youngest of 8 kids, and none of my family knows. And my dad's not living. He died when I was 18, but my mom doesn't know either. So they know I had the dot procedure because I've seen them since then, and I actually showed them those videos or the photos of, kind of that healing process. And even that, they were like, were you terrified? Like, they saw that blistering, whatever, and they were like, were you terrified? And I'm like, no, because I did my research, and I knew, I'm not going to scar, I'm going to heal, and my skin's going to be pretty, whatever. And I told them that I was like, I might do some other things. I told them, because at the time we were kind of already talking about this, but I hadn't scheduled and done all that kind of stuff, because that all happened pretty quickly, if you remember. I mean, it was like, do you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, it was like a spur of the moment thing. I was like, don't think too much about it, just do it, So, yep.
Yeah,
So I feel really happy with the results. I think for myself, it did take longer for me to get to feeling that confidence. I knew I was going to get there, so it wasn't something where I had regret, but it was something where I thought it took longer than what I thought it was going to take. I think a lot of that has to do with, you have to remember, I not only did I do the advanced lift, but I also did the under eye dot and the upper bleph. So I kind of did a lot at one time. So I think that recovery process was a little bit rougher and longer than what it would probably be for somebody who was just doing the advanced lift. But I knew it was going to get there. It just was hard to have that type of patience. I'm really happy with the results. I think I'll continue to do, maintenance, whether that be another dot procedure in a year or so to, work on the skin texture and make sure there's no discoloration and kind of keep that really good, healthy skin. That recovery for me, even though it was a week of downtime, a week wasn't that difficult. So that's something that I would consider doing. If Dr. Mendelsohn recommends filler at any point down the road, I wouldn't be opposed to doing that. But definitely I'm not opposed to other procedures based on his recommendations. So when I watched the actual surgery, honestly, I think my jaw kind of fell open, because you don't realize I guess when it's explained and they talk about a SMAS lift, you really don't, anybody who's not in the medical field is probably not going to understand what that truly means. So I understood that he would be making the incisions, because he was, drew out on my ear and kind of in the consultation told me exactly how those incisions would go, and then said that they would, you don't pull the skin back, you pull the SMAS layer back. I think the biggest shock I had when I watched it was realizing I didn't realize they had to separate the SMAS from your skin. So when I watched that portion and I saw him, with the scissors kind of cutting away, detaching, I guess, that SMAS layer from my skin, is where I was, I looked at it and I was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that was going on, and I was awake for that, and I just really had no idea that's how that was performed. Right. So the first post I did right when I got home. I remember laying down on the couch, or, kind of sitting inclined on the couch. I remember thinking I'm going to go ahead and do a post, but until I watched the post, I had no idea what I said or how that went. So watching it was actually comical to me because I could tell how hard I was struggling to try to get my words out, and I really had no idea, what I had said in that post. The one I did, then I ended up taking a nap for a few hours actually, and then I woke up and I remember, going outside because I wanted to get in natural sunlight. That post, I remember doing that, but I'll be honest, even when I watched it again, I remember being conscious of saying, I'm going to go out there and do this, because I think the biggest thing I remember was when I woke up, I could close my eyes. And before that, I couldn't close my eyes. So I thought, I want to make sure that I document, because I didn't think I would remember if I didn't document it. And I was conscious enough to want to have that documentation, because I thought, if I don't do this now, tomorrow I'm not going to remember this. So I remember being conscious of, I can close my eyes. I want to go ahead and document this now. For me, I think week 5 was where I started to look in the mirror and say, I look better. I look good now. I don't think other people were telling me, like, you look fantastic. People who knew what I had done were saying that I looked good at week 4. For me, I still felt like there was some asymmetry, but I think you're so critical of yourself and you're really studying every aspect of your face. So for me, I think it was week 5 going into week 6 where I started to feel like I was looking better. Yeah. So I was in constant contact with Dr. Mendelsohn, and he did up front before the procedure told me that about day 3 or 4 that a lot of patients will kind of go through like a depression. And I thought, not me, I'm just not that person. So I thought, that's not going to happen to me. Well, it happens, and it is very real. So that's kind of the day where, the bandages are off and you just look terrible. And I remember that day, my doorbell ringing, and I thought, I am not going to answer that door because just the way that I looked. So I just thought it was somebody selling something. So I just kind of waited till they went away. And then I went to the front door, and there was a bouquet of flowers from Dr. Mendelsohn. So I do remember, I actually kind of chuckled and thought, yep, it's day 3 or 4. And he knew that I was not going to be feeling too great today. So that was huge. I took pictures of that and sent it to friends, and that was huge. That really did kind of lift me up significantly. And you don't really realize that, but it's just it might have been a small gesture for him, but it's huge when you're going through that, just to kind of, to get that at that point in the process.